Action Comics 1017, Brian Michael Bendis writing, and unfortunately, John Romita Jr. on art.
Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
John Romita's art's not, or JRJR's art's not terrible. However, it makes it feel like it's from a different era, and an era that I don't like. It reminds me of Rebirth Superman. Not Rebirth Superman. Flashpoint Superman. New 52.
New 52. That's what you were trying to say.
Yeah. And I don't like it. Like, so why it's not like the art in this wasn't as, I would say, I don't want to say boring, but it wasn't as bad as the Batman stuff, right?
I don't like his face. He's every time Superman's flying somewhere or something, his face looks terrible. I don't. Yeah. It's not for me. Anyway, here's a complaint, and I could have made this complaint in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I didn't. But I'm going to make it this week because I hate these covers right now that have got the Year of the Villain logo, because the title of the book itself is in small print under the DC logo, and I can't imagine walking out of the comic book store unless you're keeping up on what the covers look like. You're like, okay, where's Action Comics? Oh, I'll read the small print.
Yep. I had when I got mine for my pull list, I overlooked, and I was like, you didn't give me Action. He goes, yeah, I did. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Just because when I thumb through and look, I'm looking for familiar stuff. But yeah, this book,
I'll tell you
opening,
this cover's not winning cover of the week. I'll tell you that right now. I'm just Sinestro looks like an elf or something. I don't know. Anyway,
I hate his Grodd. And I don't like the look of his gorillas later.
Oh yeah, his Grodd looks like he's had his hair combed. He's got all his hair combed. It's all perfectly uniform.
But no, so I feel like they just tacked on the Year of the Villain stuff in here at the front and the back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's got these really bad bookends, because the middle is what we've been dealing with Miss Good and the Invisible Mob, or Invisible Mafia, and her coming out of the shadows as the owner of the planet now.
You're mixing the names
and all
up.
That stuff was good.
You're mixing up names, I think. You mean Leon.
Yeah. Good's the Red Mist, right?
Red Mist, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, and I like all that. And Bendis' Perry's still good. And his, the interpersonal stuff's all there. And it was good seeing, what is it, Melanie? Not the firefighter?
Yeah, Melody.
Moore? Yeah.
Melody Moore.
It was good to see her again, because as of the last time, I was wondering where she's been.
It'd been a while. It's been a while since we had the fire department showing up for something, yeah.
Yeah. So all of that stuff's good, but you have the JRJR art, which makes it kind of hard to read, because the way that he does his breakdowns, and there's so many lines. I know maybe it's just me, that it was hard to stay focused on what the actual story was. And then you get that bookend that's going on with what's going on with the Doom War stuff, and it doesn't feel connected to anything.
Yeah,
this is the first time I've really felt editorial interfering into Bendis' books.
The opening for me, like one of my big things, I always say that I always completely forget what happens in books until I start reading the next one, and it's usually the first couple of pages that go, oh yeah, it all clicks back in my memory what the last issue was. But because this opens with this weird thing in the future where like Batman's in a mech suit and Wonder Woman's there and they're getting their asses kicked by the Legion of Doom, I was like, wait, how did the last issue end? I was like confused. I was like, what happened last issue? I don't remember any of this crap. Yeah. And then it cuts back 3 days earlier, and we were going back to kind of where we were. I'm like, okay, so I haven't missed anything. It was just doing a weird future thing. Yeah, I feel like the whole Year of the Villain thing is infected this in a way that I hate when tie-ins do, where it feels like it's kind of... And it does it in this way, and it's not just this book. There's multiple books this week and this month that feel like they're trying to establish that all these storylines and all the individual books are happening at the exact same time as Justice League, which makes no sense whatsoever. Like...
None.
Normally we have to headcanon a little bit, so okay, we got all these books at the same time, but we want a Batman, a detective alongside a Justice League that has Batman in it, so we just kind of accept that, okay, this arc probably happens before that arc in the other book, and it's just kind of, you just shift them all into place. This event, all these tie-ins are going out of their way to make it impossible to try and explain any of it. By having everything happen with a symbol in the sky, and like Superman in this book is talking to Lois about dealing with both Leviathan and the Invisible Mafia and how they're facing off against each other. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really understand the ending. if I'm honest. See when they both look at each other and go, okay, what do they? What does the Invisible Mafia and Leviathan both want from Metropolis? And then they both at the same time go, Luthor, as if it's a eureka moment. And I have to be honest, I kind of went, okay, what do you mean?
Yeah,
Expand on that.
I did the same thing because Leviathan had nothing to do with Luthor. She's had nothing to do with Luthor except for Red Cloud, right? Being upset that whatever he gave her amped her up, that took her off the board and forced Leon's hand, or Leon's hand.
I mean,
yeah.
My guess
it
is
feels like a mess.
My guess is that both want him out the picture. Leviathan because he's like the next. I mean, he's not a criminal organization, but he's kind of the next in line in terms of taking out. And then Leon and the Invisible Mafia, who seem to have burned down their own headquarters after what's happened. Or Leviathan did that. It's like kind of unclear. It's kind of intentionally like we don't know which one is which. It seems like it may be Leviathan because Leviathan tech was used to get Superman out of the way to go and deal with something in Gorilla City, is what happens in the book. But like, so yeah, all I can think of is that both want to get rid of Lex, so they're both sort of coming to Metropolis at the same time.
Right.
How that plays into Lex being Hero Legion of Doom in 3 days' time, other than just tying into Justice League.
Yeah, and I don't also get the why is Luthor suddenly a problem for Leviathan when they've been so careful about who they take off the board and when,
Because I can't imagine in my head thinking about the story in Justice League, unless there's some sort of weird time jump where all this stuff could have happened. Where in that story in Justice League, there's time for Superman to be doing all this stuff and then having the Trinity with him to fight the Legion of Doom in the middle of Metropolis. If you think about what's going on in Justice League and how it's built up to this big final fight that's just hitting from last issue, like when did this happen? Like when did any of this happen?
Yeah. Well, and then Leviathan teleports him to Gorilla City, right? Where someone has flipped Gorilla City now that they don't want to play ball.
Yeah, I guess that has to be Doom and like them succumbing to Doom, I guess.
I guess that wasn't very clear.
This sounds like the consistent problem of editorial mandated tie-ins.
I'm not.
And that's the thing is that when Bendis is tied in, right, it's his own stuff, right? Is he tied Superman in with Legion?
Oh yeah,
he's Thorn.
Bendis knows how to weave his 3 or 4 books into a shared, cohesive universe.
The last 2 issues of Action, we've had Naomi pop in there, and it all flowed really well.
Oh yeah,
this is the first time it felt like.
I'm not blaming Bendis for this though. This feels like editorial's like no. This has to be Year of the Villain stuff. So make sure Year of the Villain things are happening.
I don't think any of the writers are at fault. I don't think as much as I don't enjoy Bendis. I wouldn't blame him for this. I haven't blamed any of the individual writers for the tie-ins. I don't blame Snyder or Tynan for setting it up in Justice League because I don't think it was their call to. Hey, let's get everyone to do it. It was clearly editorial went. We're running with this.
However, I will blame Williamson when we get to Flash. Because it seems to be, again, it's all about precedent. And thus far, Bendis has shown that he's adept at weaving in and out of things.
If this is someone's first episode of this show, let me make it clear. Me and Matt have been doing nothing but praising Bendis' action since it started.
This is the most negative they've been, by far.
By far.
Well, and again, the story here with Leon and the Daily Planet and Clark and all of this is really good.
Oh, the best part of the book is when they're just sort of verbally sparring and he's trying to interview her. Like that's the best part of the book for sure.
Yeah. So and then you get the fun stuff with Jimmy and Trish Q, and he goes, "I'm Jimmy Olsen." She's like, "Yeah, you've introduced yourself to me like 47 times." So there's all that fun banter stuff, and that's good. The beginning and end and the Leviathan stuff not making sense with the Doom. And yeah, it just reeks of editorial.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're going to put JRJR on an Action Comics issue or 2, it may as well be this one. Because
and again,
it's already a mess.
I don't want to... JRJR's art's not for me. However, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Maybe because I went in with such low expectations. Like it's not great, but it wasn't terrible.
I mean, the one thing I'll compliment with JRJR is I think his layouts for action are really good. How his action flows from panel to panel has always been quite good.
Yeah.
It's just his actual art of people and faces that I hate.
Yeah.
He was okay on Silencer because that was so much action.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that.
And she wore a mask a lot of the time. So.
Yeah, so it wasn't a face. It was like
that helped. I won't lie.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so Action Comics 1017 is kind of a rough issue. I have complete faith that after another issue or two it'll be back to normal. But because we don't even get to this conflict yet, that's 3 days in the future by the end of the issue, it means that there's going to be at least one more issue of this. So it means I'm not really looking forward to the next one, but hopefully by the time we get to 119 or 120, we're back to normal. I'm good, Matt. What we give it?
I'm gonna give this a 6. That's only because of Great High.
that's basically me going. This is more like a 4, but I'm gonna give it a 6 just to stay on brand.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a straight 5. There's parts of the Bendis story in there in the middle that I like, but the art I hate, the bookend I hate, and some of the clashing story stuff from the other things is just kind of getting really, really murky. So hopefully we don't spend too much time on this plot line and we can, get back to normal.
And I also feel like he had to make a deal that in order to not do the Year of the Villain stuff in Superman, he had to do this in action instead. Because remember, there was that whole delay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe that's the benefit. This is that Superman will remain unscathed for a little bit.
Yep.